Hey you, yeah you who clicked on this video. Thanks for giving our channel a shot. And if you will, please do us the honor of watching the video all the way through. Appreciate it. Now onto the video. I hate to say it, guys, but Marvel, Disney, Kevin Feige, and the MCU are failing black audiences. But not only that, they're failing black characters. What am I talking about? Well, let's get into it. So, why do I say that the MCU is failing black audiences and black heroes? Well, it's rather simple, actually. It's because they are. And why do I say that they are? Well, so to understand this, we have to go back to Black Panther, the original. Actually, we got to go a little bit further than that. We got to go back to Captain America, Civil War. So, what does Captain America, Civil War have to do with black audiences and black heroes? Well, Civil War is the first time that we really got to see a black hero who is going to get their own film introduced. Why is this important? Well, this is the introduction of the Black Panther, aka T'Challa, Chadwick Boseman's interpretation of T'Challa the Black Panther. So, the Russo brothers, who directed this film, did a fantastic job of depicting T'Challa the Black Panther. In particular because of A, Chadwick Boseman's performance, and B, because they understood what the character was supposed to be. They knew that this character was supposed to be this imposing, fast, unrelenting hunter of a character, and so they show that in this movie. To this day, Captain America Civil War is the best depiction of T'Challa the Black Panther, because it not only shows his range of power, but it also shows his ability to keep up with and in certain instances surpass other established Marvel heroes like Captain America or the Winter Soldier. So in seeing this character basically behave this way, what comes next, what many people see as a triumph, Marvel fans, when I say Marvel fans, I'm more so talking about Marvel Comics fans, kind of see as a little bit of a letdown, and I'm one of those people. And I'm talking about the Ryan Coogler directed Black Panther film. Now, while the film was beautiful, the cast did a wonderful job. We get a great understanding of how Wakanda works in the context of the MCU. This movie was not a Black Panther movie. And why do I say that? Well, because Black Panther was pretty much a supporting character in this movie. The main character in this movie is Wakanda itself. And then Black Panther is kind of just there. Like he's not there all the time, and when he is there, there are so many supporting characters that his presence is not as forceful and as understood and as clear as it was in Captain America Civil War. And so again, you just basically have a waste of not only Chadwick Boseman in his last performance as T'Challa the Black Panther, but you also get a really dumbed down, muted version of Black Panther. And he's muted in almost every way, from his power set to his physicality in the film as Black Panther. And also, even his costume is far more muted than it was in Captain America Civil War. So, when the sequel was announced and Chadwick Boseman was still alive, by the way, rest in peace, I know that fans, especially, Black Panther fans, were hoping that we would get to see more of Black Panther, the same Black Panther that we saw in Civil War. And so, due to his untimely passing and, Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios refusing to recast the role and wanting to go in a more female-centric MCU version of the Black Panther character, or the Black Panther mantle, which is what they try to say about every character, that it's a mantle and not, an individual character. But what we see in this particular instance is that now what we are getting is a film in Black Panther 2: Wakanda Forever that is basically doing a pivot, and it's slightly slick, but not really. And the slick pivot is that not only are you getting an MCU version of Black Panther in Shuri the Black Panther, who has this really weird looking, just androgynous costume. It's fugly is what it is. But you're also getting a pivot in audience. And what do I mean by that? Well, all we really need to do to understand what I mean by a pivot in audience is to understand who the main character of Black Panther 2 Wakanda Forever. Black Panther Wakanda Forever's main character is not Shuri the Black Panther. It's not Okoye, the leader of the Dora Milaje. It is Namor, the Submariner. And you can tell by the second trailer that that is who the main character of this movie is. And the reason being is from a point that I brought up in a previous video, is that as much as I do love Letitia Wright as Shuri, she cannot carry a movie. It's not because she's not a good actress. It's because she does not have a fan base that is going to the movie to see Letitia Wright as the Black Panther. Chadwick Boseman had a audience that was going to see Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa the Black Panther. But now that the Black Panther is established, recasting the role would have made the most sense because people would still go see the Black Panther, T'Challa the Black Panther, even if it is played by another person, because this doesn't happen in a vacuum. Fans of Black Panther understand that Chadwick Boseman has passed. So, why is this a pivot in audience? Well, you can look at the actor that plays Namor the Submariner's recent quotes in a couple of interviews to really understand the pivot of audience. So basically, what I'm trying to get you guys to understand is that Marvel, Kevin Feige, and Disney are pivoting away from the black audience in a franchise that is literally marketed to the black audience. And they're pivoting to the Latino audience with the introduction of a race-swapped Namor the Submariner, played by, I think his name is Tenoch Huerta. Yes, that's how you say his name. If I'm butchering that, I mean, my Spanish isn't perfect, but it's passable according to my wife, who's Cuban. But you know, hey, we'll see. You guys will let me know. You always let me know when I fuck up normally, so I'm sure you'll let me know this time. So his quotes, he has a number of different quotes which really give away the plot of what they are trying to do with this film. And what they're trying to do with this film, it says, one of his quotes was that Latin Americans are always the bad guys in Hollywood movies, and now we are the heroes, or an anti-hero in this instance. That's one of his quotes. Also, he is quoted as saying that we, Latin Americans, are making something to be proud of in Hollywood. And the way that the article really frames this is, it says, Huerta expressed hope that his involvement in Wakanda Forever will help to inspire Hispanic and Latino viewers in much the same way the first Black Panther film inspired black audiences. See, this is the tell. And what you have to understand is that these actors are normally not speaking out of turn. They're on code. They've been media prepared, and so when they say these things, these things are basically like coming from Disney themselves, and they are on code with this messaging. And the messaging you need to understand about this movie is that this movie is not Black Panther's movie. This movie is Namor the Submariner's movie, and this movie is essentially going to be 2+, or actually I think this movie is upwards of 2.5 hours. I think it might be closer to 3, if I'm not mistaken. This movie is going to be nearly 3 hours of watching basically aquatic Latinos, or water Mexicans, as I like to call them for this particular film, watching water Mexicans basically beat down black women. That's how this movie is going to go down. If you know anything about how Marvel characters who will eventually get their own movies are introduced, they don't get to lose fights. Like something might happen to where they're incapacitated, or they might learn a lesson or something like that. But a character that is being introduced does not lose a fight. And what I mean by that, you can look by the previous examples. Winter Soldier didn't lose fights. He didn't lose to Captain America. They literally fell off of a freaking building. Black Panther didn't lose to Winter Soldier, or Captain America for that matter. He didn't lose to anyone in his introduction, and that's how these characters are introduced. So when we introduce Namor the Submariner, Shuri the Black Panther is not going to whoop Namor's ass. Shit's not going to happen. And furthermore, she's probably going to lose at least their first encounter. And what you need to understand is that this isn't just a story or plot device. This is incentive for the Latino audience to basically in a way supplant the black audience, and particularly the black male audience, because they know that the black male audience is not necessarily going to turn out in the same way that they turned out for the original Black Panther. They understand this. Disney is not stupid. They know their demographics. They have people that literally get paid obscene amounts of money to understand how the audience thinks and will react to certain things. So when I tell you that there's a pivot from one audience to the next, you need to understand what I'm saying. So this is just one way that that Marvel, the MCU, and in particular Kevin Feige have failed the black audience and black characters. So let's move on to the second example. So second example that we have currently is actually in the upcoming Armor Wars. Now see, this is actually an overcorrection for the problem presented in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. You see, they understand that they are going to be subsequently losing a lot of the black male audience because of moves like this with Black Panther. So what they're trying to do with the move to make Armor Wars starring Don Cheadle, which was originally supposed to be a Disney Plus series, and turning it into a full feature movie, is they're trying to basically satiate that black male audience, which they've basically forsaken in the Black Panther Wakanda Forever movie. And this is bad, not because of Don Cheadle or War Machine or, James Rhodes or anything like that. What makes this hard is that Don Cheadle's War Machine, there's nothing to him. There's nothing for audiences to latch on to. He's not a particularly popular character because he doesn't have a lot to do in the movies that he's in. For the most part, aside from his role in Endgame, he's mostly Tony Stark's sidekick. So there's less character development, I would argue, for him than there is for the Falcon character. At least even prior to Falcon Winter Soldier, we still had a lot more invested. There was a lot more to the Sam Wilson character of the Falcon than there is for Don Cheadle's War Machine. And so putting this movie out is going to be rough, because not only is this essentially War Machine's movie, but it's also Ironheart's movie. So you have on one hand a character that does not have a lot to him, and then another character that Marvel Comics fans have actively rejected. And if you don't believe that Marvel fans have actively rejected Ironheart, her solo series did not last 12 issues, if I'm not mistaken. So again, this is not a popular character. So these two together is going to equal mediocrity at the box office. And we know that Marvel films are expected to do $1 billion or more. That's what the expectation from Disney is. That's what the expectation of shareholders is. That's what the expectation of Marvel Studios is. That's what the expectation of Kevin Feige is. And so we know that that movie's not going to do it because the interest just isn't there for a feature-length movie. Now, this being a Disney Plus series would have worked just fine. It would have been perfectly fine because we would have been able to flesh out the character of James Rhodes in in a 8-episode format. And heck, it could have even turned the tide for Ironheart, because, as we know, a lot of normies watch these shows on Disney Plus, and so that could have turned the tide for that character and made that character a more popular character than she currently is from the page. But that's not going to happen now that we're going to cram whatever story they were plotting on that was going to be about 8 to 10 hours long into a 2.5-hour movie. So that's a problem. So what do we have up next? Well, next we have the Marvels. Now, this one is a weird one because they've kind of screwed over Monica Rambeau countless times now, in particular in the introduction of Carol Danvers being the first quote-unquote Captain Marvel, because as we know from the page, chronologically, it's Marvel, then unrelated to Marvel is Monica Rambeau as Captain Marvel, and then is Carol Danvers. But what they did was, again, this is messaging, people. If you don't understand this, you're not paying attention. They have made Monica Rambeau's Captain Marvel, who they have now used her second moniker, which is Photon. They have made her subservient to the Carol Danvers Captain Marvel by making her Aunt Carol and all this other crap, and now having an axe to grind after the snap between Monica Rambeau and Carol Danvers. But essentially, unless they plan on replacing Brie Larson as Captain Marvel with Monica Rambeau, she's still a secondary character, even though on the page she was first. So that's an issue. So we don't really even have to give that too much time. Like I said, that movie's not going to do well anyway. But it's just so interesting to me how they have constructed this. In my opinion, this is the equivalent of basically race swapping characters. It's just done in such a slick way that most people didn't notice when they basically take the moniker of Captain Marvel and give it to Brie Larson and basically to endorse certain comic book writers who shall go unnamed. You know who I'm talking about, a certain redheaded comic book creator who made Carol Danvers into Captain Marvel and has relaunched this title, from time immemorial because it keeps failing. So anyway, then we have one of the weirdest ones, and that being, Jesus, the Blade reboot starring Mahershala Ali. Now, before I even get into this, let me just say I love Mahershala Ali. I think he's fucking awesome. Like, I like him as an actor. I liked him in True Detective. I just like him. Like, he every time he's on the screen, I loved him in the 4400, for God's sakes. He is a great actor in my opinion. Now, that being said, he is apparently not too happy, according to sources, with the Blade reboot, and he has a reason not to be. And the reason for that is because they're basically trying to Thor Love and Thunder the shit out of the Blade movie. And what do I mean by that? Well, according to sources, the script is like barely 90 pages long. It has lost its director. Apparently the script was full of jokes. I don't know how you make Blade funny. I mean, oh, ha ha ha, my mom basically got raped by a vampire, and so I'm a fatherless vampire. Ha ha, isn't that funny? Like, oh, I was raised by a vampire hunter to kill bloodsuckers. Ha ha ha, isn't that funny? I'm an orphan. Like, there's nothing funny about Blade. So to try to inject like overly aggressive humor into that particular character just doesn't make sense. And apparently there are only 2 large action scenes in the film as it currently sits. I'm sure it's going to go through rewrites, but it's definitely a problem. And like I said, they've already lost their director, and it's PG-13. How in the bluest of all blue hell do you create a PG-13 Blade movie? And how can you be so cheap as to have only 1 or 2 good, action scenes in a movie where you don't really need that many special effects? They're fucking vampires, for God's sakes. I mean, you give them the teeth, you let them fight martial arts style, you slow it down, you speed it up, you make them, jump high and shit, but it's not that hard, people. I mean, God, it's, come on. And so I can understand his frustration, but again, this is a lackluster appeal to the black male audience for a franchise that could use a reboot, because we haven't seen Blade since 2004, and they're gonna screw it up. And this is just sad. This is, like I say, they're actively trying to court a black audience in certain circumstances, but they're not giving it their all. And I don't understand. They know that the black audience spends money. So do they think that the black audience will spend money on anything, or do they just not care anymore? Those are really the questions that need to be asked of Kevin Feige, the MCU, Disney, and everybody involved in these projects. So let me know what you guys think in the comments section below, whether or not you think that this is happening. But I'm going to go to my last and final instance of how they're failing the black audience. And this hurts my heart because I love this character. And that is the character of Sam Wilson, aka the Falcon, aka Captain America, in Captain America New World Order. Why is this a failure to the black audience and to the character himself? Well, first of all, you have to go back to Falcon and Winter Soldier, which basically took 2 characters that fans really liked. People really like Anthony Mackie's Falcon. People really like the portrayal of the Winter Soldier by Sebastian Stan. They really like these characters, so putting them together almost seemed like peanut butter and jelly until you start adding in identity politics, weird racial aspects, stupid female antagonists who are somehow redeemed after committing mass murder. Like, the show had problems, not to even mention the racial elements that they tried to shoehorn in a way that you didn't really have to, because introducing the Isaiah Bradley character already does that. But then they had to try to taint Steve Rogers' mantle of Captain America by basically saying that the entire premise of Captain America is inherently racist. Like, it runs the gamut of stupid in a way that just shouldn't have been. This show should have been pristine, it should have been awesome, and it really should have been a really big launching pad for Falcon. And I'm not really a fan of the idea of Falcon becoming Captain America in the first place, but the idea that he somehow feels that he needs to aspire to something that was already given to him and endorsed by the original Captain America makes no sense whatsoever. So now going into Captain America New World Order, what you're thinking you're getting is a movie that really is going to exemplify the skills and power set of a basically flying Captain America. But what you're actually getting is a movie that is going to introduce the Thunderbolts. That's what it's for. So, if I'm wrong, I'll be happy to apologize, but here's the thing. I'm not. That's what this movie is for. It's not Falcon's movie. And this trend is really irritating because, especially when you're trying to really exemplify movies that are reaching diverse audiences, or at least marketed toward a certain audience, and you do things like introduce a team full of mostly white people, like, what the hell is that about? In a movie that's supposed to be about a black hero. Like, it's just ridiculous. And again, it's just another failing. When you look at these things in totality, what you are seeing is a trend that Marvel is basically either A, pivoting away in the case of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, or just outright thinking that the black audience is stupid and not smart enough to realize when they're being lazily pandered to with these other films. So you guys let me know what you thought about this in the comment section below. Let me know if you think I'm just, talking about nothing, if I'm just overreacting, or if you think that, yeah, this is kind of weird and a little bit suspect how they're kind of treating the black audience post Chadwick Boseman's passing. All right, guys, I'll see you on the next one. 8-Bit Heroes out. Peace. If you'd like to get a shout out on the channel, then hit that like button, maybe share it with a couple of friends, and do us the biggest honor of all, and subscribe to the channel so you can join the 8-Bit Heroes family. And while you're at it, hit that bell icon so you can be notified when our new videos come out.